Marty Smith, welcome to ENTV today. ENTV today, you're in for a treat. Marty Smith is here, be interviewing her, telling her story. Marty, can you please kick off your interview the very same way you started it by I've been married 41 years, and then can you give it just go for it?
Okay, well, first of all, I was born in Colombia, South America, so I'm bilingual, originally from the Latin American area. However, due to all the 49 moves in my lifetime, I got more accustomed to the United States. I've lived in Venezuela, Colombia, and all up and down the East Coast. I've always moved, and I didn't know why. My parents, I thought my dad was just wanting to switch sceneries every time, but what it was in South America, my uncle or great uncle was going to be a president, and he actually got assassinated, his Eliezer Gaitan. So dad left the Colombian side, and he came up here to be an electrical engineer. And somehow or another, my mom and him met. I was born at 7 years old. They told me I was a mistake. They didn't want girls. I guess they were really, back then I didn't know. It was very traumatizing. It killed me to hear that. What am I supposed to do? But I think it planted in me a seed of wanting to prove my worth to myself. If I couldn't do it to my parents, do it to the world, I would prove it to myself. So that always gave me that drive, that inner drive that I'm going to prove. I called it stubbornness in the beginning. I was very stubborn. So I was brought up in a very strict household. And because we moved from South America to the United States, the hard part was not bringing the service, the maids and everything with them. So I was the make do servant in the United States. And I was very confused because we moved so many times. I didn't know my native tongue. I would say a word and it'd be like a fruit in Venezuela, but it was a curse in Colombia. And I was like, I'm just going to go English mode. So even at a young age, my mom would take me to interpret to all these different places, especially the doctor, the gynecologist. And I would look at her like, what do you want me to, I don't know what you're talking about, but that's how my life was. I was always ready to help. Even if I couldn't, I'd wing it. So I decided 18 years old, I was 19 already because I got left back in kindergarten. The recruiters came through the school and I was shopping. I was window shopping for a uniform to see which one was more my style. I love the Marines and I said, oh, I like that. But then I saw the person representing the Marines and I'm like, I like flying. Let me go with the Air Force. So I joined the Air Force. I signed my own contract. Woe is me because I got home. And now I have to explain why I just gave my life away to the government. But dad was very adamant. I told him, and he said, we're moving. And I'm like, oh no, not again. But this time I had to go because I would have been AWOL or a federal offense and all that. So I became my own little personal attorney. I said, oh no, this, and this. He didn't care. We moved from New York to Florida. But thanks be to God, I found my godmother said, I'll buy your ticket, your airplane ticket. You just make your way back here from Florida when your delayed entry program is due. I said, okay. So I hid the airplane ticket. We moved to Florida. And then all of a sudden, the day that is for me to go in the basic training, dad had already tried to arrange me in a marriage. The guy gave me a ring in December and I was like, oh, that's nice. I didn't even kiss him. I didn't love him. It was all, he was very rich. Okay. He had his resume as far as my parents were. He's rich. He can live next door to Burt Reynolds. I didn't care. I was up to here with money because we did have money in South America. So I had associated the help as my family more so than my own family because they used to, cater to me, I felt loved by them. So I knew already that they were my kind of peeps, not what I was exposed to in the society of my family. So I was always geared towards that. And it taught me how to be humble. And it taught me that people, no matter where they come from, who they are, what they do, there's love that if it's exchanged, it's cool. It's very cool. So I went in the Air Force. I got hurt on the flight line, but I had an adventure and a half while I was there. I worked on the A-10 aircraft, and one day it was my birthday, and the guy that was running the simulator said, come on over, I'm gonna give you a treat. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was flying the A-10 as a simulation, and I pulled G's, and I had all kinds of scenarios, the engine catching on fire, all this, everything was cool up until the last scenario where they cut the runway off completely. The lights were gone. I crashed the plane, but it went in my memory bank forever. I had the best fun in the Air Force, and everybody warned me, oh, it's so hard. You're going to be so homesick. I said, no, this is a cakewalk compared to where I lived, so it's like, I enjoyed it. Well, I got hurt, but I also fell in love with the second guy. He wanted me to choose between my parents because he saw how they treated me versus him. And I said, you can't do that. You can't make me do that. So he gave me an option, and I decided to go home because mom was calling me saying dad had peritonitis. I showed up. He had a hug and a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I'm like, what in the world is going on here? I'm just being toyed every which way. So I got to Florida. I started going to school. I started working for a catering. I had 3 jobs. I was a workaholic because as long as I was working, I didn't have to be at home or be told what to do. And I had already tasted independence. So I just kept rolling with the punches. Well, as soon as I got settled in Florida to start my career, my dad says, we're moving. And I'm like, oh, geez, where are we going now? So we're going to North Carolina. I'm like, I don't want to go where Barney Fife and cows, and no, I don't want to go. And we did. But I ended up working at a bowling alley. And in that bowling alley, I was an assistant bartender and a manager. And I met my husband to be. This guy comes in there. He orders a pitcher of beer. His friends didn't show up for Midnight Madness. And I was like, but before I met him, I was already signed up to go in the Peace Corps. I wasn't going to stay at home. I was just going to go serve somebody else. As long as I had shelter and food, I was happy. And that's just the way that I was. I was always searching. I didn't know, I didn't have a clue. Wasn't focused on anything in particular, but I just always searching and striving to find a way to get over whatever it was that I was facing. Little did I know, fast forward, I married my husband. We've been married 41 years, and he has been a saint. He has seen me through 27 surgeries. I was in a wheelchair because my nerves atrophied, or my muscles atrophied because of a nerve condition. So I couldn't stand up for very long. So I ended up depending on the wheelchair. Well, luckily, it was a workman's comp injury. I got sent to a neurologist, and he says, the orthopedic doctor that was reconstructing my ankle and my knee. I've had reconstructions in all my joints, I think, except my brain. And they said, well, you're a candidate for a spine stimulator or a coma. And I said, I don't want to be in a coma. Spine stimulator, what is that? And they said, we're going to feed a wire through your back, your vertebral. By the way, it's very risky. You could probably be paralyzed. And I'm like, I don't really have a choice here, do I? Why? Because my pain was so bad. I felt like needles and glass and burning all the time. You know, when you hit your elbow and you get that funny bone, it isn't funny. It isn't funny when it hits your whole body and you can't, function because of the pain. So it was driving me insane. I even had psychiatric treatment, everything, the works. But pandemic hit and I was reliving. I said, no, not again, not again. I am going not to go through the same thing I was with the wheelchair, because that's what I kind of had, like flashbacks. And I said, no. This time I'm going to focus on getting me straight away. So I ended up taking all these empowering courses. I didn't even know that limiting beliefs existed. I didn't know that I had been my worst enemy because I didn't love myself. I didn't know how to love myself. Everybody kind of gave me a piece of it, but I didn't know it was me that was the one responsible for everything that I had built in my head and blinded me. The pandemic offered a free 3-day course on how to write a book. And I was like, I've always wanted to write a book, but I probably have to be William Shakespeare. I don't know. Well, I'll just go. I'm not going to sit here, watch TV and bore myself to death and watch the world end. So I took the course. The first day I had already had my cover done. The second day, the title, Resilience Nourishes the Soul. By the third day, I had an outline. I started writing. I published that book in December of 2022. All I was going to do was put it on Amazon and forget about it and say one more thing knocked out in the ballpark. No, January, I received an award for resilience. Halfway through 2023, I get a call that said, you've been nominated for a humanitarian award of Women of Hearts. And I was like, okay, that looks good on the resume. I didn't give it 2 cents worth of thought. I said, okay, that's good. Nominated is good. They called me and said, you need to come pick up the award in England. And I'm like, what? Okay, my husband said, you can't just not go and pick it up. Go pick it up. While I was picking it up in England, meanwhile, I had already written my book. I had already published in 2 anthologies. They called me from the people with the anthologies and said, we're nominating you for Women, A Story of Global Impact. And I went, oh my God, this is getting global. This is getting huge. And so it was in Ireland next door, and I was trying to wedge my flight to go in there, but it was not meant to be because that was the very hotel in Dublin. There was a riot going on that weekend. So I was like, okay, God, you protected me and you're giving me all kinds of treats. Okay, I get back to North Carolina from England, and I was nominated from Latinos Sin Fronteras. I decided to take up Spanish as a necessity because I wanted to go bilingual on the book. And they nominated me for Inspiration of 2023. So I'm telling you, I don't believe anything that's happening, but it keeps expanding, it keeps growing. And I am so grateful that I didn't give up. So my message is, we've never were able to have children, but I always borrowed and give them back. And for 35 years, I was a Sunday school teacher. So I felt what it was like to be a mom, but without the worry about having to pay for them, or I'd borrow them and give them back. And that was the best of both worlds for me. And it helped me heal that I wasn't, I was not a mistake to my husband, because I always in the back of my mind say, okay, you were called a mistake. You got hurt on the flight line. You lost your radiation therapy career, because I went to medical school for radiation therapy. Those patients taught me how to live. Dying patients, the kids would say, I want to remember smiles. I want to have a good time. All I see is my parents, bummed out and everything. And I was like, oh, I can help you. Maybe, I don't know. So it taught me and it impacted me. So in that book, it's Resilience Nourishes the Soul. I mentioned all the biggest traumas that I could remember where I had not noticed because of all my limiting beliefs, that I was holding myself back, that I kept repeating the patterns and I wasn't believing in myself enough to go through and face the adversity. Then I discovered the word resilience. I was like, that's the common denominator for everything that has gotten me through. God was there watching me play monkey with everything he'd give me. And now I get it. So I want to leave a legacy of hope for other people, especially young people, where they're all confused with the way the world is. Yes, life is tough, but we can be tougher by dealing with it with resilience. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Oh my gosh. Never had someone fire hose me this much on an interview. And I've done 460 interviews in the last. Wow, that was okay. I don't need to say anything. I just want to keep going, because what do you feel in your heart or your spirit that you're called to do? So the doors are opening because of a book. Awesome. What do you feel you need to do in the next 5-10 years still?
Well, I'm already in it. Like I'm starting to teach courses on resilience. I'm coaching people individually, and I see that evidently the sense of humor that God gave me and all these other qualities that I didn't even know I had, and other people too. I do give kudos to the people that have been lined up in my journey, that they pointed out things that I thought, they're drunk, they're on some kind of medication. How do they see that in me? But they say, you can this and you can that. And I was like, I don't know what I've lived, the oh pity party that wouldn't shut up. And then I finally realized that God was waiting on me to catch on and say, hey, I didn't put you through all this just so you keep crying. You gotta do something. And I do feel so blessed now with everything that's happened, that it just kind of oozes out of me. And I want to put it in little bottles and sell it to people, or give it away to people to be hopeful, to be believing in themselves, and then just figure it out. Take a look at yourself, and what is it that you keep repeating in you? What keeps you blinded and not seeing the bigger picture? Because we always face things dead on, but we never see from different angles. So I'm an avid photographer, but with my phone, my iPhone. And I say, if you take it from a different angle, you get a different perspective. And that's what's happening with me. So I'm looking at everything that happened in the past. I forgave myself. I forgave my parents, and God had it where we healed all the mess that we had made along the way. And I acknowledged that we didn't know each other. My dad had Alzheimer's. I saw him through it. God had trained me through my medical career to pick out all these things to help me. And for the first time in my life, Dad was in the hospital with a heart attack. I showed up. I didn't show up at the house. A neighbor called, and I was like, who the heck are you? Okay, I'll go. And I showed up, and I was getting flashbacks of the Kentucky Fried Chicken. I was like, no, okay, I'll go. And because they were very good at guilt trips, and I didn't want to go through that. So I went, I showed up, and for the first time in my life, I felt like my dad was real. Like he was happy to see me, but I could tell he had forgotten things. I got the neurologist, they confirmed he had advanced stages of Alzheimer's. And I'm like, ooh, okay. I saw him through the hospital in 3 months. I stayed in the hospital. The staff there, like, we've never had anybody stay in ICU, CCU, and all the U's in between, cheering us on and just watching the beauty of you and your dad. Well, Mom was slow to catch on that I wasn't a bad black sheep that she thought I was. And I got back home to Charleston, South Carolina. All of a sudden I get a call from Mom saying, we're getting ready to lose the house, and your father is a mess. And I had been diagnosed with cancer. And I'm like, boom, here's another, treating cancer patients. Here's another opportunity. And I just see that it was all these little tools getting thrown along the path that either I paid attention or didn't know what to do with them, or just dismissed them. But it's wild. And so both my parents passed away, and I just pray that they see that that girl that they thought I was a mistake is not, and that I just wish they had been around to see this part.
Wow. I'm thankful we get to see this part. Thank you for being in ENTV today. Who
Thank you.
invited you here? Do you remember who invited you?
I think it might have been one of your people, somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
I can't put a name to it because so many things are happening at once. I
Yeah.
can't. Like, okay,
Well,
yeah, I'll go.
Well, I'm thankful you're here. Anyone that's going to watch this interview is gonna be seriously blessed. There's so many things you quickly skipped over that are absolute nuggets. Like, you talk about the mindset challenges that a lot of people, it takes many years to get over. You just skipped over, like, no big deal. This happened, and then I did this. No big deal. This happened. So thanks for being
Well,
so inspiring.
but actually, I took a look at it, because before, while it was happening, I was a complete basket case. So it's just, that's why I'm so grateful, is that I was able to see it in a different light. And that's what made me keep pushing and getting focused on delivering this message to the world. But I just so blessed. I feel like somebody pinched me. This is still just a dream, a pipe dream, but no, it's real, and I love it. And I just want more people involved in this. I want people to come with me and join me, and we all figure out how to get a better life. That's how it should be.
I'm going to connect you with some people that are going to want to interview you in their groups as well.
Okay.
So I'll make that happen for you. I know a number of them are going to be all over interviewing you. So any last thoughts, Martie? Please drop all links to books, courses, landing pages, sales pages, whatever you got after, in the Facebook comment section of your interview so people can connect with you. I'll be
Okay.
tagging you, but I just want to let you close out the interview because this has been tremendously powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. It's just, I want everybody to just take an ounce, a drop of what I've said. But the most important thing is, don't blame the world for all your traumas, because that was me. That was me. We get to be experts at excuses and blames and everything else. But in reality, when we assume responsibility, take a look at ourselves and how we think and what programmed us to believe the certain things that we just hard on ourselves. Our worst enemy and the worst chaos is created by ourselves. So sit back, take a look, and make a list. Make a list of all the things that keep repeating in your life and why you can't seem to find an answer. Make a list of all the blessings in your life, and you will see that the weight of the blessings outnumber those things that worry you. And when you start dumping it on paper, it's a catharsis in itself. So never give up, express yourself, and believe in yourself.
ENTV Today, you are blessed by Martie Smith. Please reach out to her and connect with her. She'd love to connect with you, Martie. We're going to end it here and we'll keep chatting off camera. Thanks for
Okay.
watching ENTV Today.
Thank you.